Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Now today I'm going to be looking at two cameras. We're going to compare two cameras. The new Sony a6700 that came out a month or so ago, and it's a APS-C 26 megapixel APS-C camera, obviously from Sony, and we're going to compare that against the Canon R7 that we have here. And the only reason I'm comparing these two cameras is because I know for sure I'm going to get asked by people, which one do I prefer, the Canon R7 or the Sony a6700? Because they're both pretty much identical price point, and maybe with lenses they might be slightly different, but they're kind of competing against each other. And I'm sure there's going to be many people thinking, my gosh, which one should I buy? The R7 or the 6700? I think if you're already in the Canon ecosystem and you've got E-mount lenses, not E-mount lenses, you've got Canon EF mount lenses, or maybe even RF mount lenses, maybe you've got a Canon full frame body, then it'd be a no-brainer. The R7 would be the one to go for. Likewise, if you're into the Sony E-mount system, you might already have even an old NEX body with some lenses, or you may even have some of the Sony full frame bodies or lenses. You would obviously be advised to go with the Sony a6700. It'd be kind of pointless reinvesting in a completely new system, ditching your old system and going into a new system. But if you're new to cameras and you haven't got either or, then it's going to be a very difficult choice as to go for the 6700 or the Canon R7. Now we've got that out of the way, right, let's just look at the major differences. I'm not going into any fine detail, but the major differences that may affect your buying decision. Now the Canon R7 has a bigger sensor. It's an APS-C sensor, but there's more pixels on the sensor. It's a 33 megapixel sensor on the Canon R7, and I can't show you it because it brings a shutter down to protect the sensor, but that underneath that shutter is basically a 33 megapixel sensor, which is a lovely sensor. It's a really, really nice sensor. And you get great images. Now I will leave a link in the description of this video where you can view images taken on where you can view images I've taken on the Canon R7 and the 6700, so you can compare them yourself. I'm not going to go into any detail on the images on my computer and show you on this video because it's kind of pointless. You're much better off looking at them, your own leisure on my Smug mug or my Flickr page. But that's got a 33 megapixel sensor. The Sony a6700 has the new backside illuminated 26 megapixel sensor, but in reality, and I have done some quite in-depth comparisons myself, as far as image quality, they're both fantastic. You're not really going to lose out on image quality whether you go with, which one you go with. A lot will depend on what lenses you use, as opposed to the sensors that are built into the cameras. So, but that is two differences there. Well, one difference there. The sensor is bigger in the Canon. Might be helpful if you're doing a lot of cropping, but even then, I've cropped images on the a6700 without any problem whatsoever. One of the fundamental differences is the mount system. The Sony uses the Sony E-mount. That's been around for a long time now. There's plenty of third-party manufactured lenses for the Sony E-mount. I've got the likes of the very cost-effective plastic fantastic Samyang lenses. They are plastic. Well, they're probably not plastic, but very light, very compact, really great lenses. Or you can get like Sigma lenses. I've got the Sigma 56mm lens here. That is a really nice lens. Very happy with that lens. And there's loads of other lenses available for the Sony E-mount. Whether you're using Sony full frame lenses or APS-C lenses, it doesn't matter. You can also adapt lenses. You can get the Sigma MC11 adapter to adapt Canon EF lenses. So if you're looking for adaptability, the Sony E-mount would be the way to go. Whereby with the Canon RF mount, it is a new mount, and is Canon only make lenses for the RF mount. They don't allow third-party manufacturers to make lenses unless you're using manual focus lenses. You can get a small variety of manual focus lenses to work on the Canon RF mount, but fundamentally it is a Canon system, so you are, you know, reliant on using Canon lenses, or you can use the Canon EF lenses via the EF to RF adapter. So it's not a big deal because there's masses of EF lenses available for the Canon EF system, and I've used both the EF and EFS lenses very successfully on the Canon R7, but there isn't that many RF lenses for the Canon RF mount. The ones that are available are really good quality. Even the budget lenses are fantastic quality. So that might be a concern with the range of lenses available for either or. They both have a 3-inch articulating screen, so the screen on the back, both of them articulate, so no real differences there, and they both have a 2.3 million dot electronic viewfinder. The Canon's a traditional one. It's a pentaprism style, so it's straight you know, above the lens. A lot of people prefer that when you've got it up to the eye, where the Sony is a rangefinder style viewfinder. The magnification is slightly less on the Sony than it is on the Canon, but in reality I'm happy with both. I don't have an issue which one I'm using. With some people, as I say, might take a little bit getting used to, but the camera is to one side as opposed to the viewfinder being directly over the lens, where it isn't on the Sony, but it makes it a lot more compact than what the Canon is. Now the Canon also has a joystick for selecting your focus point, where the Sony has no joystick. It's a much more compact body, so the Sony does have no joystick, where the Canon does have a joystick for selecting your focus point. Or you can use a touchscreen. You can have it up to your eye and move a focus point across the screen, which is what I do with a Sony, because you can do that with a Sony. So that doesn't worry me at all that there's no joystick. I don't use it anyway, so it don't bother me. I just move the focus point with my thumb across the screen. That works fine for me, so I don't see that as a big selling point for either or. The Sony weighs quite a bit less than what the Canon does, and it's a far more compact body. It's a really nice compact body, and your finger does, you know, slip underneath. But if you're doing a lot of traveling, I would highly recommend the Sony personally, because it is really nice and compact, slot in your bag easier, really nice grip. But the Sony weighs in around the 500 grams with the battery. The Canon is 607 grams with a battery, but the Canon is a bulkier camera. It is a heavier and bulkier camera on the Canon, but a lot of people will prefer that because it has got that much more sort of SLR style feel to it. It's got a more traditional feel to the Canon than what the Sony does. The Canon has two UHS 2 SD card slots on the side. In fact, one of them might actually be UHS 1, I think it is. But you've got your 2 card slots on the side. That is great on the Canon. Very useful if you need redundancy and you need backup. The Sony, on the other hand, has only got the 1 SD card slot. Now, I've not had any issues with cards over the years going corrupt on me, but that may be a concern if you're certainly photographing weddings or events that can't be replicated, you know. So the Sony has only got the 1 SD card slot on the side there. It's UHS 2 card slot. I've got a V90 card in the side there, but that is one of the big fundamental differences between the Sony and the Canon, is basically the SD card. In fact, I would say that was the biggest fundamental difference between the Sony and the Canon. 1 SD card slot in the Sony, 2 SD card slots in the Canon. If wildlife photography or sports photography is your game, then the Canon may be, you know, that little bit better. This can shoot at up to 15 frames per per second in mechanical shutter, where the Sony is 11 frames a second. That doesn't sound like a big difference, and to me it's neither here nor there, but to some people that would be a really big difference. If you are photographing wildlife or you're photographing sports, you might want to go for the Canon as opposed to the Sony, but the rolling shutter in the Canon is worse than it is in the Sony. So if you are photographing moving subjects and there are straight lines in the background, or even the subject has straight lines, they may wobble a bit. So I would, be cautious of that. But in mechanical shutter, then fine. The Canon has got a faster burst rate than what the Sony has. Both cameras have in-body image stabilization. I don't think one's going to be better than the other. It is 5 stops of image stabilization on the Sony and about the same on the Canon, so I don't think one's going to be better than the other. It's great to have it in the body because a lot of lenses don't have in-lens image stabilization. This one on my Canon doesn't have in-lens stabilization. The lens I've got fitted to me Sony at the moment, the 20mm, doesn't have in-lens image stabilization. So to have it in the body, I think is great, but you're going to have no problems whichever camera you decide to choose. If video is really important to you, they're both very, very capable video cameras. They both have 10-bit video recording. I prefer the Sony because it's got a lot more video features than what the Canon has. I'm not going to go into detail here, but I think if you're into video, then the Sony may well be a better bet because it is a really, really great hybrid camera. It's got AI features as far as the autofocus is concerned. It's got autofocus tracking. It's got so many other video features in the Sony that the Canon doesn't have. So if video is your key thing here, then I would probably suggest you look at the Sony as opposed to the Canon. But saying that, I've been using the Canon for the close-up camera on my YouTube channel for the last probably 5-6 months, maybe longer than that. And I've got some great video on it. And the autofocus is very sticky on my face. I'm using my Canon R50 today, and it's working great. So there is nothing, intrinsically wrong with using the Canons for video. I think they're great, but I do think the Sony is just that little bit better, and using S-Cinetone gives a lovely color profile to the videos. And I really do like the Sony for video, but I also do like the Canon. So go with either. You're going to be happy with either, to be honest. They've both got mic jacks. They've both got headphone jacks. One of the things I love about the Sony a6700 for video is its multi-interface shoe. It has a multi-interface shoe on the top, so that is great for plugging Sony microphones in. So you can use all sorts of Sony microphones. I've got a whole variety of them, and you can plug your microphone in. You don't need to use cables, and it'll do digital audio straight from the microphone into the camera. No batteries needed. It's fantastic. So to summarise, which camera do I prefer out of the Sony a6700 or the Canon R7? Well, I love them both. They're both great for different purposes. If you do need the redundancy of a second SD card slot, it's a no-brainer. The Canon R7 is the one to go for. But if you want a compact travel size camera, the Sony a6700 is the one to go for. And if I think video features, the 6700 is the winner there. So there we go. I don't think one is better than the other. Depends on what you're looking for. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button if you like the content of this video. Would really appreciate that. And don't forget to take a look at images that I've taken with the 6700 and the Canon R7 on my SmugMug page. That'd be fantastic. Cheers for now. Bye.